This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Mark. Today's guest is literally progressive. Let's welcome Corey Schenck of the band Pangaea to the podcast. Corey was a late bloomer, musically speaking. He didn't pick up an instrument until late into high school, but it was such a deep connection that he went to college and received several degrees in it. He talks about how his love of music pushed him through the more challenging college courses, and now he teaches music on the college level. He formed the band that would eventually become Pangaea during his studies, but the original name was Artica. He explains how they changed the band name to something in a lyric and how some possible band name considerations became song titles. But before the albums came their cover song period. They would play a huge mix of songs until they decided they needed to focus on their originals. That meant a new name and a focus on their original music, which was more progressive. And while Corey is the main songwriter in the group, everyone contributes to at least one song on each album. Corey describes the prog scene in Tulsa, Oklahoma in the late 80s and early 90s. The shows were impressive, especially with their refusal to this day to use backing tracks. But after years of writing, recording, and gigging, the band decided to take a hiatus that lasted 18 years. Corey also reveals what ended the hiatus and how the idea for a new album happened. That album is now available and is called Beowulf. It has the complex, epic tracks Pangaea is known for, but it has much more than that. It does contain their most adventurous music to date, particularly the song Wasape, which inspired the album title. Find it wherever you get music now. Check out their website, pangaea.band, for more links to their music, merch, and their socials. Check out our socials at PerformanceANX. Our merch is available at performanceanx.threadless.com. Feed us coffee at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. Now get ready for an adventure with Corey Schenck of Pangaea on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Hi, this is Corey Schenck with Pangaea, and we are out here right now releasing our new album, Beowulf. Please take a listen to it and see what you think. You are listening to Performance Anxiety with Mark Shea out of Washington, D.C.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I have been enjoying Beowulf quite a lot this past week, and I'm so happy to be talking to you about it.
Thanks, Mark. I'm glad to be talking to you as well.
The way I kind of start most of this is to do a little bit of a deep dive into how music became so important to you in the first place. And I think your situation is a little unique because there's not a whole lot of bands out there that have been around as long as you guys have with siblings in the band. And so I would love to find out a little bit, before the band started, was music a big part of your life? Was it something that both you and Andy were into? Was there a lot of it in the house?
We grew up hearing a lot of music through our parents. Our parents were fans of classical music and also rock. Our mom was a fan of Chopin and Debussy, wow. And she liked the Beatles and the Beach Boys. And my dad, he liked Beethoven and Wagner, the big orchestral music, and he was a fan of like Buddy Holly and Roy Orbison and bands like that.
Oh, nice.
So we grew up hearing these things, but when it came to music, I was a real late bloomer when I started playing it, though. I'd always loved listening to it and whatnot, but I got a guitar and started taking lessons during my senior year of high school. So I was only 17. Yeah, so I was way behind. Yeah. And then I wound up going to a community college in Tulsa to work on my studies and just dug in really hard. So kind of at the end of my senior year, I was putting a band together for a talent show. And of course, I didn't have much talent at the time. I could barely tune my guitar. But we were having rehearsals in the garage, and our drummer couldn't make it to a couple rehearsals. And one of the other guys says, "Get your brother Andy out here to just keep a beat for us." So I was like 17, Andy would have been 13 at the time.
Okay.
And so we called Andy to come out to the garage. He sat down and we played him the song. It was like I think we did a Survivor song and a Night Ranger song or a Huey Lewis and the News kind of song.
Nice.
And he knew them and he listened to it and he started playing it, and he wound up doing the talent show about a week later with us. And that's how he started. He was just thrown onto the drum kit.
Oh, so he hadn't taken any lessons or anything either then?
No, not at all. And, I'm going to say this, and you can write him if he wants to argue, he can. I don't think either of us were that good. Some of the other members of the band were actually quite good, and they kind of carried us at the time. But that was really how it started, and we just got this passion for it. We both got really serious. And when I was at the community college, that's where I met most of the rest of the band. Okay. Daryl Massengale, the guitarist, Stephen Osborne, the singer. There was another keyboardist in the band at the time called Keith Tinker. And they were all at community college with me studying music. And Ron Polson, the bassist, I had known in high school. And we didn't really play music together in high school, but we played soccer together. And that's how I knew him. And then when I started putting this more serious band together, Ron was one of the first people I called. And so he joined Andy and I. And by 89, 2 years after starting community college, the rest of the guys were in there, and that was the start of this band. And that's how it all began.
Was that when it was known as Arctic?
Artica, yeah. It was originally called Artica.
Okay.
And then we made a change, and we went with Pangaea. Yeah, so that's how it all started. Yeah.
You mentioned that you got a late start in music. What was it that made you finally, at 17, say, I want to learn how to play the guitar?
I don't know. I mean, there were a lot of guitar players I liked listening to.
To the girl?
That too. I noticed the girls at school, they kind of liked the guys who played guitar. So I thought, wait, there you go.
Yeah.
So,
It's always comes down to a girl something.
Yeah. But there were some guitar players in the 80s that I kind of liked. Steve Howe. Yes, in Asia. He's one of my idols. And I also liked a couple guitar players that, were kind of more under the radar even at the time. I liked Frankie Sullivan of Survivor, the guy who wrote Eye of the Tiger and whatnot. And I loved his lyrical approach to guitar. And I also liked Chris Hayes of Huey Lewis and the News. That was another guitarist I really liked.
Oh, wow.
And then those were kind of my three favorites for a while. And then I kind of followed Steve Howe's path a little more. And who did he like? And then I found out Chet Atkins and Joe Pass and Wes Montgomery and all these great jazz and country guitarists. So I kind of started diving deeper that way, and it just kind of grew from there. I really just loved it once I started. And even though I was way behind, I spent hours in the practice rooms at the basement of the college working to catch up, but I just loved it. And I like doing kind of that dirty research work, finding out. And this is before the internet, myself. There was no internet. I'm trying to figure out who these guitar players are and what did they like to listen to? What were their roots? Because to me, that was what was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever I had a musician who I liked, I always wanted to find out, well, who did they like? Whether it be Steve Howe or Keith Emerson or Jeff Downs or Rick Wakeman. I want to know who these guys liked.
Oh, yes. Steve Howe is the gateway drug to so many people learning jazz.
Oh, yeah. And got multiple styles.
Yeah, the guy is a chameleon. He could do literally anything on a guitar. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And I've seen him live 5 times now, twice with Yes and 3 times with Asia. So,
oh, wow. That's awesome.
For me, that was just like, that was so cool. Such a cool moment to see him play.
Oh, that's amazing. And he plays seated, doesn't he? Or is he kind of like
when
Robert
he does he does when he goes to his acoustic set. Because he'll be playing, standing in the concert, and then like the band will exit, and Steve will do a 2 to 3 song acoustic set of his works, and he sits for that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So early on in the band, Artica and early Pangaea, you said you were doing covers. When did things flip to just being more in prog rock instead of cover and rock covers?
Sure. Yeah. So in '89, we were, we started doing covers, and we were playing, backyard parties and New Year's Eve parties and, things of that nature. And then we'd throw in 1 or 2 originals we came up with. I wrote it, or Stephen Osborne wrote it, or one of the other guys in the band wrote it. And we started getting more and more. And that was like in '89. By '91, we just said, that's it, we're done. We're not doing covers anymore. And we knew there were going to be a lot less gigs at that point. But that's not why we were doing it. We wanted to create the music ourselves. So it was pretty quickly. By '91, we had all made that commitment to be an original band. And that was really the shift, was that year. So it was just 2 years into it.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Okay. And so the originals you were doing were more on the progressive side than the rock side then?
They were everything. And they really were. Some of the songs were very progressive, the epic, multi-movement works. And other ones were, like a 4-minute rock song. We weren't really overthinking a style. It's just if one of the guys brought in a song and we thought it was a good tune and we liked playing it, we're going to do it. And that's still kind of true today. Even on the Beowulf record, it's that's kind of the concept too.
Oh yeah, you've got so many different styles going on in there, much like a Steve Howe. There's a lot of stuff going on in the new album. So, how did you choose the name Pangaea? Was there a reason it switched from Artica to Pangaea?
Yeah, so we'd been using Artica for a while, and we decided it was time for a shift, and we had a whole list of names that we were looking at. And it was Andy, my brother, who he was looking at a song we had. And in the song, there was a lyric that said Pangaea. It was a lyric in the song. And he goes, "What about that?" And everybody said, "Yeah, that's it." So Andy and I drove to a university and we used their database to look around. And we found no one owned the trademark on it at the time. But the only thing that had a mark was like a bottled water company or something. I can't remember now. This was so long ago. Right. But so we applied for the trademark on it, and we said, okay, it's our name, Wow. And that was really the change. It was just from a lyric and a song, and we had a whole list of other names we were looking at. And it's funny because I had thrown a name down for a band name, and because it didn't become the band name, it later became a song on the first album called September Park.
Okay.
In the shadows of the past, and you remain the only one I can turn to. The times we share in September Park. Can we find a common ground? Stand side by side. Have we found the street?
Yeah, that was actually a band name that became a song, and then Pangaea is a lyric that became a band name. So,
I love that.
So we've had a little bit of both.
Oh, yeah. And I love September Park. That's a great song.
Thank you.
Is it true? Was that the song that was written in a pawn shop?
It was. Yeah. I worked at a pawn shop in college. That was like my job in the afternoons. I went to school in the mornings, and I'd head to the pawn shop in the afternoon and on Saturday and work. And one day I was down in the guitar and the music area. We had guitars and, stereos and stuff, and I was cleaning stuff up. And I think I was stringing up some guitars, cutting some old strings off and putting some on, new ones on. And I just started strumming those first two chords, and the E minor and the G chord, the simple two chords. And I got this tune in my head. And, as soon as my lunch break came, I signed out and I took a guitar and I went to the back room and wrote that song on my lunch break. And it just came out, during my lunch break. And it just was there.
Oh, my God.
So, of the songs I've written with Pangaea, which is quite a few, I only had 3 that just kind of came to me.
Oh, really?
And the rest were like, oh, I got this melody. Now what can I do with it? Or I have a lyric, or I have a chord progression, I have a guitar part. I have to kind of construct them and compose them, if you like, through trial and error. But there's 4. There were 4 that I wrote. 3 have been released. One we haven't done yet. We're going to, I think. But of all the catalog, there's only 3 that came to me like that. And the rest were like, struggles some of the time.
Well, September Park is great. I try to go back and listen to as much as I could.
Well,
I do a lot of the research at work, so sometimes it makes it tough. My boss doesn't like it so much. But, what the hell? The band has just this great sound. It's one of those cases where I can hear the influences, but you don't sound like your influences, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
I mean, I can definitely hear Asia in there. I can hear Rush. I can hear Styx. And I love the fact that you guys can take all those influences and make a sound that's yours. It doesn't always happen. It's not always, with some bands, it's not successful, but you guys make it work, and you've made it work since the late 80s, early 90s. It's so impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll tell the guys. And part of that, I think, is because there's 6 of us now. We added in the guitar player Scott Drawn is now in the band because we realized live we can't play everything. There's too many parts on the record, and we weren't going to do the backing track thing. We're just not going to do it. I'm not going to sequence the keyboards. Everything that you hear in the show is live. I mean, whether it's a great solo or a mistake that I play on the keyboard, it's all there. Ports and all, it'll be there.
Oh, that's great! I love that.
Yeah, and with the six of us, the five that did the album, we all have different influences, and some of it crosses over. We have some crossovers, but at the same time, we all bring that into the band. So if I write a song and bring it in, they're putting their stamp in there with their influences, and it's always been that way. And I think that's kind of what happens. And we definitely have our influences, like you said, and you can definitely once in a while hear one maybe stronger than another in a song, but we've never set out to copy a band, because I don't want to. I mean, as much as I love Asia or Yes or someone, I don't want to sound like those guys. I mean, I love them, but I don't want to be them. I'd join a tribute band if that was the case.
Exactly, which become very popular nowadays.
Yeah, I know. It's huge right now. So
instead of a cover band that plays a whole bunch of stuff, you get a band that just plays one band.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there one primary songwriter in the band, or is everybody chipping in on every song, or is it just kind of a mishmash of everything?
I've probably written a majority of it. Like if you go back, I can write a passage. 9 of those are mine. One's Andy's. Welcome to the Theater. I think 4 of them are mine, and 3 or 4 more, 5 more I co-wrote. I write a lot of it, but not all of it. Now, I'll bring in a song, and everyone might put their own ideas into it, especially if it's kind of just loose. I mean, sometimes I bring a song to them and it's just I'm strumming the acoustic guitar and singing the tune, and they start helping with the arrangement. Other times, actually, I will write it all out on paper and then in a computer, like with Finale, and say, "Here's the song," and they look at it like, "Okay," and they learn what I wrote, but again, they don't do it exactly like I wrote it. They're not going to mimic it. But they know that, okay, he's after that, so they'll put their stamp into that as well.
Okay.
But sometimes, somebody will come in, including myself or Ron or Steve or Daryl, with just a riff, and say, "Here's a riff I've got," and then we just start jamming on it, and then before you know it, maybe something's coming out of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, I do write most of it, but not all of it, and I think it gives us that variety, too, that everyone in the band is a writer, at least one song a record, at least, if not a couple.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So the band, I want to go back a little bit to the band's history again. So the band started in 89. You guys have been progressing. What was it like? Because you were in Oklahoma at the time when the band started, or was it Texas?
Yeah, we all met in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Now, Andy and I were originally from Texas. We're from the Houston area.
Okay.
But we moved to Oklahoma when I was starting high school, and Andy was in middle school. And so we were there, and that's how we all met. I was at the college in Oklahoma. And we were there for several years doing the band before we moved back to Texas.
What was the scene like there for prog bands? I mean, was there a scene there for progressive music, or were you guys kind of the outliers?
Yeah, we're kind of an outlier. I mean, there were quite a few original bands, whether they were prog or hair metal or techno or kind of college, like an REM style. I mean, there was a lot going on in the Tulsa scene in the late 80s, early 90s. And there were, a half dozen venues or so that you could play at. There was a place called Tucka, the Tulsa Creative Center for Arts. It was downtown. It was a combination of like an art gallery for young artists, but also had a stage for live music.
Oh, nice.
And we played there several times, as well as other bands. I mean, there were some bars that would let some original bands play. So, I mean, it wasn't a thriving, original scene, especially prog. But we played the shows we could. And a lot of what we wound up doing was making a new cassette or a new CD, a new album all the time, and trying to put that out there and get people to kind of go from that angle, And
at one point, you went on to pursue music, furthering your studies in music and getting degrees in music. Was that at that time, or did that happen later?
So during those days, I was working on my bachelor's of music. I was.
So wait, so you really started at 17, senior year of high school, and then you end up majoring in it.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I worked hard. I had to work hard because I struggle in some areas a lot because I didn't know, what stuff like. I remember the first time I was in a sight singing class and the students are looking at this music singing, solfege, do, mi, so, mi, do. I was going, how are they doing that? What is this? It's like, it was a foreign language to me, which it is. And so I had to catch up. But again, there were some things that came easy to me and other ones made me work hard. But I just loved it. And during those years, I got my bachelor's. Steve actually left the band for a couple of years because he went to another university, Oklahoma State, which is another city, to pursue his bachelor's degree in voice. Okay. So we went ahead as a 4-piece and did the first 2 albums without him because he was working on a degree and doing that type of thing. And then I took about 8 years just to focus on the band. And then during the time of between Welcome to the Theater and A Time and a Place, I was actually doing my graduate work, my master's degree, and I even worked on a doctorate degree as well. So I was doing that during that time period. Yeah.
Wow. And so is it your master's that's in composition?
Yes. Yeah. All my degrees are music composition.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. That blows me away that you started and then it just clicked so instantly that you knew that was what you were doing.
Yeah, well, I think what clicked was that love for it, that passion.
Yeah.
And I guess I had some, innate talent somewhere, but I had to find it. And again, I mean, a lot of it was hard work, because I was behind and I had to work, but I did, I practiced, I studied hard. I did extra and I did a lot of cool stuff with it. So I loved it. I wanted to get better and I still do. I teach music at a college here in Houston now.
Oh, awesome.
That's kind of my other job. Yeah, and I love it, because I'm teaching, young students, music theory and music history and composition. That's what I teach, and I just love it.
Are there any young yous in the class?
Sometimes, yeah. I had this girl in my class just this last semester. Great student. She's a viola player, and she plays bass guitar in a Spanish rock band with 2 of her brothers and another guy, and they're really good.
Wow.
And they're a vocal act, and and she was in one of my studios as a composer, so I'd work with her on stuff, and it's cool to see that, because she was kind of like me in the sense she's getting this classical education, but she wants to kind of do the rock thing. That's me. My passion is definitely rock. But, I studied classical because I wanted to know as much as I could about it. For me, I didn't want to stop knowing 4 chords and how to play a guitar lick. I wanted to know more about it. So that was always my thing.
And that's a hallmark of prog music is incorporating classical elements into it. I mean, Yes does it all the time.
So like a Palmer.
Yeah.
And we do too. We do a lot. Actually, we quote Stravinsky in the song Necromancer. There's a rhythm right after the acoustic part. It's this accent. It's from the Rite of Spring. It's exactly those accents.
Oh.
It's our own chord. I'm not using the Stravinsky chord, but it's a harmony. I'm doing like this chordal harmony, and we're hitting those same accents that he hit. It's kind of an homage to Stravinsky.
That is amazing. So another thing that's big in prog circles is albums with themes. Now, have you guys done that? Now, there's Rite of Passage, Welcome to the Theater, and A Time and a Place. Are there backstory or stories behind the music with any of those albums before we hit into the Beowulf?
Sure. Yeah, they weren't really a concept album in particular. We weren't doing a wall or something of that nature. But there would be moments like on the Rite of Passage. There's a 3-part. There's 3 songs that do our trilogy called The Traveler, and on Welcome to the Theater, there's the word Crimson, which is in 2 pieces, and then Time to Place is another trilogy on it. But as far as a theme, the titles actually come from a lyric in one of the songs. And our bass player, Ron Polson, he came up with that the first time on Rite of Passage. We're trying to think of a title. And in the song, in the trilogy, I believe it's in the 3rd part, A Gift, there's a part where Daryl sings, the Rite of Passage. And Ron goes, that's the title. So then the next album came along, and the song Altar of the Dragon, the chorus is Welcome to the Theater, Cold Still World. And Ron said, there's the title, Welcome to the Theater.
Welcome to the theater. Cold souled world. You're a pawn in a game of chance.
So we started doing that with each album, that it's a lyric from a song, even though maybe the whole album's not part of that, but that's kind of where we're pulling that from.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Going to your writing, and I know you can really only speak for yourself as far as writing the music is concerned, so I will ask you. When you're writing these complex pieces, because you've got some songs that are long, like on Beowulf, you've got Necromancer and Wasape are 8-9 minutes. Are you writing that kind of epic song linearly, or does it come in pieces and you're just kind of trying to fit things together and see what works?
All of that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's a bad answer. It kind of depends on, because every album, it happened differently. For example, when I wrote the Traveler trilogy on the Rite of Passage, I kind of mapped that out ahead of time, that I was going to write this piece in 3 parts.
Okay.
And there is one theme in there. It's this part where it's running with time as a constant reminder. That melody, the first time you hear it, comes back in every movement and a slight variation. So that little theme and lyric is kind of the thematic transformation through each of the 3 pieces. But then with, say, Necromancer, I did know I was going to write this acoustic versus electric song, because I was going after this nature against industry technology.
Okay.
So the nature is the acoustic, and the electric, of course, is the industry technology. But I didn't know it was going to be, 8 or 9 minutes or 2 minutes. I had no idea. I just started working on it, and then it just started to grow from where it went. And I think with a lot of our songs, all of us, we bring in a song and we will try to develop ideas as much as we can, but we also kind of follow the music and let the music take us where it wants to go.
Okay. Makes sense.
So, yeah, so like you said, those 2 songs are 8 or 9 minutes, and then A Month of Sundays is 2 minutes long.
Right.
It's a 2 minute song. Because that's what we said everything we needed in the 2 minutes. There was no reason to spend that out more.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Something like, right. But Necromancer, it needed 8 or 9 minutes to tell the story. So it's different with each tune.
Okay.
And sometimes it is very linear. Other times it's like a section and section, that come together. And actually, as far as Necromancer goes, one of the first things I wrote was the bass riff in the ride out at the end of the song.
Oh, really?
That was one of the first licks that popped in my head. And then I went back and started working on the acoustic part and put a guitar melody that was like a counter theme to the bass line. And then it pushed me into the heavy metal part. Wow. So it was kind of written like the ending, then the beginning, then the middle. That's kind of the order of that one.
Oh,
so it wasn't actually written in order. It was written out of order.
That's awesome. I love that guitar dissonant kind of drone at the end. Oh, yeah. That's the kind of thing I love. That as soon as I heard that, I'm like, ooh, I'm good. This is amazing. I love that. The last 2 minutes of that song are my favorite. It's amazing.
Oh, cool. We've been playing that live at shows, and it's gone over really well.
Oh, awesome.
It's a tricky one because there's all these different rhythms and meters going on, and Andy's playing 2 or 3 meters at one time. And the guitars are in one, I'm in another, the bass is in another, and you're putting all that together, but it's been going really well. And the audiences like it, so yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. So then the new album, it's called Beowulf. And you guys have kind of been on a little bit of a hiatus prior to this album. So I guess we'll start from the beginning there. Why did the band go on to take a break? And then what brought you guys back together to create a new album?
Sure. So I'll go back. So we had released A Time and a Place, the third album that we did with Robert Berry.
Yes.
That was 2002 or 3. My years are not always good. The website would tell you I'm going to miss some of these dates.
It's on 2002.
Okay, yeah. And we were doing that, and we were about to promote it. We met another guy, an industry guy in Hollywood named Dito Godwin. And Dito had worked with some of the guys in Kiss. He had worked with No Doubt. He had worked with a bunch of bands. And he really liked us. He took a shine to us. And he wanted to keep working with us. But he thought his contacts he had were in for more of just a rock thing and not the progressive stuff of Time and a Place. So we started writing a new album. And we took a new approach. But we recorded this album with Robert Berry again. And we went to Robert's studio. It was called The Reckoning. And we did 12 songs with Robert, and we started working with Dito, shopping this. And we went to Hollywood, oh my gosh, like 3, 4, 5 times every year for a couple of years. We're always in Hollywood and LA and all these areas, all over California. And we'd play showcases and gigs, and we'd do rehearsals, and we recorded an acoustic version of 5 of the songs.
Oh, wow.
And during that time, life started getting in the way, or life started changing is a better way to put it.
Okay.
And Ron left the band because he was getting married and having children. And our youngest brother joined the band as a bass player for a while. And then a little bit later, Steven left, and we were down to just me, Andy, and Daryl left. And my brother Rico was in the band. We brought in some horn players. I wrote horn arrangements for some of these songs.
Oh,
it was
wow.
It's like a blood, sweat, and tears Chicago vibe. It wasn't ska. It was more like a good 70s rock, kind of thing.
Nice.
And we even played gigs as the album title, The Reckoning, because, without Steve and Ron, it was like, well, I mean, it is still Pangaea, but it's also not. So we're just trying something new. And then we kind of stopped. We decided, it had run its course, and Gerald wanted to go try something different. And Andy and I were kind of left holding that bag and just said, well, let's stop for a while. And 15 years later, we started talking more and more. And then in 2021, we met in Dallas, Texas, because 3 of us live in Houston, Daryl, Andy, and I.
Okay.
Ron and Steven both live in Tulsa. So we met in Dallas, which is about halfway. And we just met there, and it was June of 21. And said, do we want to do this again? Everybody wanted to. We'd always talked. We'd always, texted or called, or said, Merry Christmas or whatever it might be.
Sure.
And we decided to do it again. So we started rehearsing the old music, the 3 albums. We were doing the whole catalog. And then one day I brought a song in. Said, I got this new song. And then Steve goes, I got a new song too. And then so it started turning into these new songs. And then all of a sudden rehearsals stopped and the idea of a new album came out. And we decided, we called Robert. We said, hey, Robert, we got the original 5 back together and we want to do another album next summer. And that would be in 22. And he was like, okay, let's do it. So we put, like 15 days at Robert's studio, and you have the result there with Beowulf now.
Well, I'm glad you guys started bringing in new songs, because the album is so cool. Like we're talking about, starts off with Necromancer, and I love how that song. I love the song is great, but that ending is just what really hits me where I live.
Cool.
But there's a few that I want to ask you about, and I guess going kind of in order, Masquerade. When I had mentioned that I could hear some of the influences, that's the song that I was thinking of. It definitely sounds like, I don't know, Styx meets Rush.
Uncertain world outside your door. Are you satisfied with all that's come before? Can you look beyond? Do you feel there's more? A place you'll never see. What you're searching for.
Because he's got that Dennis DeYoung quality to his vocals, that really almost clear, like bell-like quality to his vocals. And I mean, and he's operatically trained, right?
Yes, he sings opera. Stephen, just like me, he has degrees in music. His are vocal performance. And he has been singing years with the Tulsa Grand Opera. That's one of his jobs. And he's sung with other theater companies. He even recently, he may kill me when I say this, he was asked to do a role with the Tulsa Ballet because one of the ballets they were doing had a role that needed a person with a singing voice. And none of the ballet dancers could do it. So that Stephen auditioned, he got the gig.
Wow.
So he actually was in the ballet too.
Man.
You know, in real theater. And he also at one point, even because he has a good speaking voice, he did voiceovers on the radio for a while for like ads and little snippets and stuff. So yeah, he does have that very clean quality. Like you can hear when he's singing, you know, and his control. And his live performance to me is even better than what he does on the album. He's very commanding on stage. We've talked about this. He just pulls the audience in. The audience is like fixated on him. I think they look at all of us, I hope, but he draws that attention. He demands it, and not in a bad way. It's just, you know, it's like you want to see, what is this guy going to sing to me? What does he have to say?
He's a good front man.
Yeah, and Masquerade is his song. He brought that in kind of at the midnight hour. We were 2 weeks away from going to Roberts, and he flew into Houston to work with me and Andy on some voiceover dubs on one of the demos. And he goes, "How got this song?" He starts playing. I go, "Well, damn, we got 2 weeks." So, you know, we started working on it. And then Andy came up with that cool drum part where he's playing this drum part where his snare drum, the snare is turned off. So it's this odd, like, tom timbale sound. And then Ron's got that cool kind of Latin groovy bass line going on. And it really developed right before the session, actually during the session in the hotel room. It even was getting finished.
Wow.
But yeah, it's a cool song. That's Steve's.
The other one that, and I think out of everything I've heard, all the three prior albums, this album, I think my favorite Pangaea track is Wasape. That is a killer track. I don't even know where to begin asking you questions about this song, just because there's so much. I mean, it's in a different language. It sounds more raw than anything I've heard from you guys before. It's very primal. There's tribal drums. I mean, it's like the most primal, raw song I've heard from you guys. How did you guys come up with Wasape? Because it's just an intense track. It's an epic song, and it's so much different from what I've heard prior to that song.
Okay, so this one was a really different approach. It's mostly Andy's song.
Oh, okay.
It's mostly his song. And he gets sole writing credit on the record for it because it's mostly his. I mean, we contributed, but this is his piece, his concept. He was writing this piece. He had already written kind of the keyboard pad and the bass groove with all those drum parts. He had all that going on.
Okay.
And he had that chorus that says in English, "I'm a man." You know, "I'm a man," that part. You hear Steve and Andy singing in harmony.
Right.
And he had that. And he also, this is a Native American concept. Wasape is, I believe it's Comanche for man. And at the end, they found a Comanche song that they sing saying, "I am a man, I am a man." You know, it's like after your journey, your soul, you find who you are. And we listened to recordings of that, and then we replicated that in the studio. You probably heard it. That's actually Steve and Daryl and me and the producer and the voice coach, everyone singing. And multiple times to get that. So after studying that piece, and so Andy had all these ideas. Verses. And one day, the bass player Ron was in Houston with me and Andy working on some bass lines for the demos. Mm-hmm. And Andy played it for us. And I was just sitting on the floor, and Andy and Ron were in the chairs, we're talking. And we're just kind of going, I was like, Andy, what is this about? And he said, well, Sape means man. And then the natives at the end, the melody is, I'm a man. And I'm singing in English. And but what happened was, it was based on, Andy had this vision, like when he was asleep, like a dream, a vision. And in this vision, he was in this beautiful grass field, like a prairie. And walking with him was this huge bear with him. And there was an eagle overhead and a huge tortoise out in the prairie.
Oh, wow.
And those three things are in the painting. So Andy had this concept. He drew a pencil sketch, sent it to the artist, Ronner Kolwitz, who's done most of our album covers up to this point. And Ronner then did the beautiful painting you see on the album based on Andy's vision. And so this visual that Andy had and this music he had were tied in. And he kept saying this thing about man, I'm a man. But then the picture that I saw was a pencil sketch at the time. He was talking about this bear. I said, well, that's like Beowulf. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, well, Beowulf literally means wolf or bear in Anglo-Saxon. That's what it translates into. Right. And of course, he is the great warrior, and the great epic poem, becomes a king. He slays Grendel, he slays the dragon kills him in turn. And so we talked about it. And then Ronnie and I were sitting there and I said, what if your verses, we just use stanzas from the Beowulf poem? And Steve, who is an opera singer, he's sung German and French and Italian and everything else. Yeah, he could do this. And so we knew Steve had the talent and the skills to pull this off. And Ron just goes, dude, that's it. That's perfect. So we got a copy of Beowulf. I had a copy that had the modern English on one side and the Anglo-Saxon on the other. We found some stanzas that we felt would tell the story, instead of the hundreds of pages, just a few stanzas. Yeah. And we called Steve and told him, and I think at first he wasn't sure we were being, like, are we serious or goofing around? And he was okay. and then when we got to California, Robert loved the idea. The vocal coach, Tom, loved the idea. So we were in the studio during the second week working on our music, and Steve would be back at the hotel getting ready for this one with Sape for the Beowulf part. And he was watching videos of like Anglo-Saxon experts reciting the Beowulf poem. And he watched 3 or 4 of these people, and he was writing it out phonetically with IPA, which is the style that opera singers learn to do. And then he would practice it and study it. And then he was getting into the character of the emotional content. Well, how do I deliver that line? And you can hear his voice inflections change when he's given certain lines from the poem.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing.
So that's what happened. And yes, it was Andy's main idea. And between the visual concept that became the painting and the song you brought in, it became what you hear. So that's the tie-in. Yeah.
Is that one that's going to be played live?
It hasn't yet because, okay, I don't know how much I should give here. I'll just say this. On that recording, there's a few keyboard tracks. There's a bass line. There's 3 or 4 guitar parts, and there's some vocal parts. There are over 3 dozen percussion tracks.
Whoa!
It's over 40, I believe.
Oh my
God. Andy is working on an arrangement that we can pull off live because we're not going to use backtracks. We're not going to hire 32 players on stage, but we're going to come up with a way that what'll probably happen is I'm going to wind up doing the keyboard and the bass on a synthesizer. And one of the guitar players, either Scott or Daryl, will be playing the guitar parts. And then Steven, who's going to be talking to Beowulf, will be on percussion. Andy will be percussion. Ron will be percussion. And probably Daryl or Scott will be the other percussion.
Oh, my God.
So we are working on an arrangement of that. It hasn't happened yet, but it is, a lot of people keep asking about it. So, yeah.
It's one of the most unique songs that you guys have done. So hearing it live would be really amazing.
Yeah, it was funny because Ron, the bassist, he has a daughter in college, and she's played our music for her friends and all these students in this Oklahoma University. They love our music.
Awesome.
And they came to the show we played in Oklahoma at the Hall of Fame when we released the album. And his daughter walked up to me and she looked at me and she said, Corey, and I said, what? She goes, I am very disappointed y'all have not played with Sape. I go, yeah, your dad told me you would be. So, yeah, her and her friends were like, we're glad you played everything else, but you didn't play with Sape. We were like, oh, so it is one we're working on, yes.
Let me tell you how difficult this is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge, but we are working on it. We did play 4 of the songs at the release party at the Hall of Fame. We played Necromancer, Show Me the Way, Masquerade, and Tomorrow Will Come. We played all 4 of those at the show. So,
Tomorrow Will Come lyrically is just a great song. I love the message there. It's just so awesome. It's so full of hope and it's one of the standouts on the album.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's about loss. Everyone in this band has, lost a parent or both parents or a cousin or someone, and the song is about that. It's about loss through death. But as I've said before, it's about the weight you will always have. When we lose someone we love, we have a weight. And it's your choice to either carry the weight on your shoulder or to let that weight drag you down.
Yeah.
It's your choice. And the song is about putting it on your shoulder and carrying it. And having that more positive view of what's happened, that hope, as you said, that's the perfect word. And that's exactly what the song is about. And the band, we all like it because we all connect to it. And that was,
So are you guys planning on playing much in the future? Is it going to say regional, or are you planning on maybe spreading out a little bit?
We're working on a lot of things right now. I'm not really cleared to talk about it, I was told, but there is nothing in stone. But we are looking at shows in Texas, but also outside of Texas, even outside of the U.S. right now. And again, a lot of it's going to do with just affordability, budget. We're not we don't have the budget of, say, a Dream Theater or somebody, so we can't do certain things.
Yeah.
But we are looking at some options right now. We're working on some things. Yeah.
Is it tough to get back into playing shape, game shape after the hiatus, or did you guys fall back into it pretty quickly?
It's kind of funny. If I remember right, when we first got back together to rehearse the old music, we wrote up a list of 10 songs at the hotel. Said, okay, we're going to meet next month. And everybody worked on those 10. And I remember this. We plugged in and we played 3 of the 3 songs, and they were incredible. It's like, dude, this sounds great. This is Pangaea. This is what we sound like.
Yeah.
And then some of the other songs were a little rough around the edges. And I was like, okay, we're doing pretty good. The next month we had rehearsal. Everything fell apart.
No.
It's like, wait, didn't that sound a lot better last month? I was like, yeah. But, so it did take some work. It was kind of like, getting the old bicycle out of the attic and, the chain's pretty rusty and you need to put, some new tires on it. So
yep.
It's a bit of that, but it is definitely coming back together. And of course, in the shows, I know I made a couple mistakes here and there. It's going to happen. But overall, it's not too hard in the sense we love doing this and we love playing with this band. When we got back together in Dallas, we had made a decision that if all 5 of us weren't going to do it, then we weren't going to do it again.
Oh,
if it only been 3 or 4, we weren't going to push on with other people. We actually tried to be Pangaea with some other people once in a while. We never recorded with anybody. We played some shows with other people. It just never worked. The chemistry was different. It's some when you're in a relationship, whether it's a sibling or a lover or a teacher or a team, there's certain chemistries that just have that fire about them. And when the 5 of us play, that's what it is. And now with Scott Drawn joining the band, it's added a whole new element because he's a lot like us. He loves this music. He's a great guitar player. He plays keyboards and sings harmony, and he's kind of filling those spots. And he's part of us now too. So it's not too hard in the sense that we love doing it, and we're doing it with the right people.
That's fantastic. So he's kind of like the utility player for everybody, for the band then.
Yeah. We had made a short list of 3 people we trusted, people we had played with in the past and we knew. And one was primarily a keyboard player. One was a singer who played bass and guitar. And one was a guitar player who could play keyboard and sing. And we looked at these 3 people. We loved all 3 of them. And we just said, well, what do we really need? And 2 of the guys felt very strongly we needed another guitar player primarily, which is true because on the albums, I play a lot of guitar. Daryl plays most of the leads, of course, but I play tons of guitar on the record. But live, I only play keyboard. I can't play guitar. There's no room. I can't do it. So we had to get someone to play all those parts. And so Scott was the guy, and he was the one we picked. Yeah, I called him up, and he was excited, and he had actually played a couple of live shows with us 20 years earlier, and he was super excited to try it again. And we said, look, this is what you got to do. And, I kind of felt bad for him too, because he had to learn like 20 songs in just a couple of months.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot of music. And, when I say 20 songs, it's not like, 3-4 chord rock songs.
Right.
We were playing one of the songs, and I think it was Tomorrow Will Come. And Scott goes, when you first listen to it, the song sounds easy. He goes, then when you're trying to learn, you go, it changes keys 4 times, and there's like 38 different chords in this song.
Oh my God.
Goes, it's like a dictionary of chords. He goes, oh my gosh. And you can't just move your finger up and play it. You have to change the voicing.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, sorry about that. But man, he's been doing great, and he learned the parts, and everyone loves having him. He kind of gave like a fresh spark to this band too, to get a new idea in there,
Oh, that is awesome.
It works really well.
I love hearing that. I love seeing how excited you are about this.
Oh yeah, we are. And again, it's because it's this band. Yeah. It's these guys, this group. So.
What is the best way for people to find the album and to keep up with possible live dates and tours?
Tell you what I'm going to do. I just changed my name to it on the Zoom right there. The website.
So, there you go. All right. So it's Pangaea.band.
Pangaea.band. Yeah. Go there. That is the official website. And that's where we do everything. You can go there and get the news on the front page or see interviews we've done like this one. There's a music page, which it takes you to our YouTube channel, which just has songs with an album cover. There's a videos page with 2 or 3 videos. There's even a streaming page, which shows some of the things that we have one album streaming on. We only have one album streaming. And there's a history page, there's an archives, there's photographs, there's a reviews page. It's very comprehensive, but it's pretty easy to navigate.
I'm pulling up right now, and yeah, it is. Absolutely is.
Yeah. I mean, if you like this band, you could be up for hours reading about it. And if you don't like us, then you would probably hate that website completely. So there's so much Pangaea on there. It is very comprehensive. But that is people can contact us through that. They can find out anything we're doing, shows, videos. We update it every week. I mean, almost every day. Every week is getting updates. We have a Facebook page too that's connected to it with the social media part at the bottom. So. Oh,
cool. Okay. I've just been enjoying the album so much. I'm telling you, Necromancer and Wasape are just in my head. I've been listening to them on repeat on my drive to work.
Oh, okay.
So, wow. and it fits. It's almost exactly. I could actually listen to it 1.5. Well, no, wait. Let's see. So my drive is 45 minutes, so I can listen to it one time, and then I can get like a Necromancer in.
One more song. Yeah.
Yeah. You get one extra long song in. So
it's true. Yeah.
Thank you so much for spending so much time with me. I'm hoping to see you guys on the road somewhere. Hoping you guys can come to the East Coast somewhere around the
we do. Area. We hope to. Yeah. All right.
Well, thank you again so much. And this has been a wonderful chat, and it's just been a wonderful listen to the album. I really do appreciate you sharing it with me.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you for taking the time to talk to me about it and ask questions. So I really appreciate that. And stay in touch with us.
Sellen Fremedal. Beowulf es breme blad wieder sprang. Hildes, e fera schere landung in.